A good Sunday to you. The Congressional Super Committee tasked with reaching a deal to cut the federal budget by $1.2 trillion failed in its task last week. And the days since have brought denunciations of Congress for its seeming inability to solve the nation's most pressing problems. One national problem is that Social Security, under pressure from retiring baby boomers, is on track to run out of money. Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz has drafted a bill that he solved that problem, but even he doesn't believe it has a chance in Congress. Welcome back to Sunday Edition, Congressman Chaffetz. Why would you champion a bill that you say has no chance of passage?
Well, we've got to do something. It's the single largest expenditure in our entire federal budget. It accounts for about 20% of all of our federal spending. So if you're going to actually solve the deficit and debt problem, you have to tackle entitlements. And I know it's not popular, and I know most of my colleagues don't even want to go anywhere near it and touch it, but we have to do it if we're going to have a solution to the long-term challenge.
You said it's political death. You must feel pretty confident about your re-election prospects to be talking about this.
Well, I got to be able to look everybody in the eye and say, I went back there to try to solve the most difficult challenges, whether they be entitlement or, immigration or those types of things. Otherwise, what good are you? I mean, everybody can go back there and push a lever, yes or no, but can you actually come up with something creative that would actually solve the problem? I got to be able to look people in the eye and say, yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Well, looking people in the eye, if it's more than a stunt, why don't you actually introduce it as a bill into the Congress?
Well, that's why I've got it in bill format. I had the actuary, chief actuary, the Social Security Administration actually score it. I put it in this bill format so that I can share it with my colleagues. I've been out on television shows and with newspaper editorial boards. And until I get a brave Democrat who will step up and join me in this, it's sort of fruitless to put out there. But I've got something real and something tangible. And hopefully we can get somebody else who will be brave enough to say,
I'm willing to take it. Got a blue dog Democrat out there somewhere who'll bite?
Somewhere, I hope. It's the only way. We got to do it in a bipartisan way. That's the spirit in which I'm doing this. If they have a tweak or an adjustment, I'm open to that. And if they have some other solution, I'm open to that too. But you've got to lay your cards on the table, and I put mine down.
Well, let's talk about the system as it stands quickly and look at the way things would change. Presently, those of us who work, we contribute a payroll tax a little over 6%. Right now we're on a holiday for a stimulus. We're down to 4%, and the employer matches that, and we reach a certain retirement age, and we get a government pension. What would you do that would change that?
Well, I took the two most contentious things. One would be to raise taxes, and the other is to privatized accounts. And there are arguments, pros and cons for both, but they're very contentious. And I eliminated both of those, and I came up with 7 things, not the most glamorous things, but 7 things that would actually put us into sustainable solvency over a 75-year period.
Without raising taxes?
Without raising taxes, without doing privatized accounts.
What are they? First?
Well, first of all, we talk about raising the normal retirement age because we have a longevity index that we call. Remember when Social Security first started, you were going to get the benefit here, but you're only going to live this long. Now we're living longer than the benefit, and so we have to change that. You couple that with the baby boomers, we add this longevity index that basically says you're going to be older before you get into the system. The early retirement stays the same, but the older, for the younger generations, changes.
Okay, so for an old guy like me, I'm told that I could take retirement, I think, at 66, something like that. Now, what would happen? You're going to ratchet that? You're going to affect me? You're going to affect my kids or my grandkids? How does that change?
Well, if you're 55 years old or older, and I'm not sure how old. Okay, it virtually goes unchanged. But for younger generations, say somebody who's maybe 30 years old, it's going to change, and they're going to be expected to contribute for a longer period of time, and to get the full Social Security benefit, because they're going to live longer, they're going to work longer, they're going to contribute more.
But they have to wait clear till age what?
Well, again, the early retirement can still kick in their early 60s. Well, we're going to, for every 2 years of that life expectancy, we're going to add 1 month that they add onto that. So you can sort of extrapolate that out over the course of time.
70? 80? What does it take?
Well, hopefully you live a long time. We look at the years also of contribution. Right now being 35, we extend that out to 40 years of contribution. We also do another thing, Bruce, and that is we add 5 years for childbearing years, which hasn't been there in the past. So let's say you leave the workforce after, say, 20 years. We're going to give you 5 years of credit as if you worked 25 years because you had a child at home.
If you're female.
Or a male. If you and your wife are you single parent, then you would get this 5-year credit for leaving the workforce and raising a child.
What about means testing?
We've actually added this in there. We took those that are the wealthiest among us who are making a significant income in that particular year. So we took this threshold of $320,000 if your combined income. If you have an income of $320,000 or more, then you only get 50% of your benefit. You still get some of your benefit, but it does make a significant change.
It drops off right there at that threshold, or it diminishes up to that threshold?
It's somewhat arbitrary, but what we said is if you get the income at $320,000 or more, you only get 50% of your payout that you would normally get for the year. If the next year you earn nothing, you're going to get your full Social Security benefit.
So some groups would benefit by this, or does everybody see a reduction?
Well, basically we've reduced the benefits over the course of time, but by a very slight amount. And in the case of those that are making $320,000 a year, we're going to guess that you're not going to miss half of your Social Security check.
So this puts the burden of this modification, it sounds like, onto the younger workers, people who right now are having trouble finding jobs, getting started in the current economy. You know, a lot of people we've been looking at out of college, and it's a very tough time for them. Some of them vote. Is that a difficult proposition?
What we're saying is for the younger generations, we have to change the equation. We have no choice. When Social Security first started, we had roughly 30 workers for every beneficiary. Now we only have 3 workers for every beneficiary. So you can't continue to sustain it. But for the older generations, those are 55 years old and older, we're going to keep the program virtually the same.
What about cost of living? Retirees always look at, do I get a cost of living increase?
We did change the COLA so that it's what is referred to as a chained CPI, which we, Democrats, Republicans, even the White House has agreed is a much more accurate description of what those increases should be. So yeah, you will get a COLA, but it's tied to what's called a chained CPI. It makes a difference.
Different index in the
It does. It makes a difference of about 0.3% per year. So over a 10-year period, only 3%. It's not a major trajectory change, but it does make a difference.
Any other major points in this revision that you're championing?
Well, there's 2 major benefits they get. Those that are 85 years old and older, we get an immediate 5% increase in their benefit. The theory is that if you're in your 90s, you're probably not going to be able to necessarily go out and supplement your income. We also took the special minimum benefit, those that are truly the most downtrodden, those that are having the most difficult time, and we raised up their benefit as well. So there's, I hope, something for everyone to like about this system. And the idea that we actually fix something that's going to make a $6.4 trillion difference over the next 75 years and make sure that this program sustains itself into the future, I hope is a winner.
So why don't you really push it?
I am. I'm here, Rick. I'm with you.
When will we see legislation that's introduced into the Congress that is really ready for debate? Or let me ask you, since we've denigrated some of the congressional activities for the last little while, can Congress really tackle anything this big?
That's a very legitimate question. I've only been in Congress. I'm in my 3rd year, and I have not seen us tackle the most difficult problems out there. But all I can try to do is lead by example. That's why I've got it in bill format. If you go to chaffetz.house.gov, you can see the full thing there. I just need a brave Democrat to come join me. And quite frankly, I need other House Republicans to come join me as well and say, we're going to solve this and we're going to fix this so that we can put this behind us and get on to the other entitlement challenges that we have.
And since politics is or used to be the art of compromise, as you've sat down with another willing Democrat and worked this out, would you consider at all any kind of revenue enhancement, 6.3% or something if it figured into the calculus, or is that strictly off the table for you to raise any more revenue to fund Social Security?
I think if they look towards revenues or raising taxes, or if they try to go with privatized accounts, which is on the other end of the spectrum, I think if either of those 2 things happen, there are going to be enough people in the middle that say, we can't do this. And so we got rid of those 2 contentious things. But again, I'm open to any idea and suggestion. If they don't like what the plan I've laid out, then where's your plan? I want to see it. It's very difficult to try to create a sustainable plan for 75 years, but we've done it. And if somebody else has a suggestion, I'm open to it.
In your heart of hearts, privatization wouldn't be a bad thing.
If I could do it all by myself and I was king for a day, yes, I would move that direction. But I think the country has spoken on Social Security. They want this program. We have an obligation to fix it and solve it so that it's here for generations to come.
We'll be watching.